When you start flower farming, you don't necessarily know where you're going. When you start any good idea, you don't know where you're going. You just start walking and things start happening and you start making decisions. So today I'm going to talk about my journey as a cut flower grower, my humble beginnings, how I climbed, and why I am pivoting so strongly now. So stay tuned and we'll jump into my journey as a flower farmer. Welcome to Learn Cut Flower Growing. Whether you are an inspiring green thumb, a busy mompreneur, or simply seeking a passion, you are in the right place. If I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would do it smarter. And that's what I'm sharing here. I want to take years off your learning and help you bloom with confidence in your garden. Each episode, I'll share practical tips and ideas, heartfelt stories, and expert insights to help you grow and find balance in your journey. I'm Paula Rice, your cut flower farmer guide. I've been growing for 16 years, and I'm an expert in my field, literally. So grab your gardening gloves and listen to me while you work, or grab a cup of coffee and relax as you learn to manage a cut flower garden and business. My journey started like everything does, very, very humble. And I had 2 rows in my vegetable garden and I was seating in my basement. We had just set up some shop lights hanging above a counter, and below that counter, which was open, it didn't have cupboards underneath it, was a baseboard heating system so that I could give my starts bottom heat and they would grow. And then from those 2 rows in the vegetable garden, we moved to 1/4 of an acre as I was starting to sell flowers. Then I moved to a 1/2 acre. Then I went to 2 acres. Then I bought some land next door and planted in 4 acres of annuals. And that is in conjunction with the woodies field that I have planted over the years and a peony field and all of that. So, come on, I had to have been, surely up to about 6 acres of growing flowers. And so for the markets of all those flowers, we started out with the farmer's market and I was selling pies and cinnamon rolls, anything I could do to catch people's attention. And then once the farmer's market was going good, I went ahead and put a farm stand here on my farm. And when that was going good, I stopped the farmer's market and I had started a florist route. And I went from 2 florists to 22 florists and visiting several towns to get those flowers delivered. But then I saw that the grocery store was a really good option because it would just be simpler and easier. And once I got the grocery store up and running, I stopped the florist route. And when I was with the grocery store, I started out with delivering once a week. And that was really great because, I was still into the farmer's market a little bit and I was still into the florist route a little bit. And between those, I was able to shift and make better decisions of how I wanted to move and pivot my business. So when we gave up the others, the grocery store then took on 2 deliveries a week. And then the final season that we were there, we actually were able to do 3 deliveries a week. And so that was really good. I would say when I had got to where I was doing 3 deliveries a week, I had my farm stand and then I was going to start doing a little bit of the farmer florist and take on some weddings and things like that. So when I harvested my flowers, I was able to sell anything that was short. I was able to kind of pick through all of the flowers and pick beautiful color palettes for brides, and then the rest would go into grocery. When I got to that point, I just really felt like I made it. Like, I'm happy here. This is where I want to stay. This is where I was trying to get to. I'm making the amount of money that I want to make doing this. I have all of the infrastructure set up that I always wanted so that it would be easy, and everything was perfect. And then we had the year 2021 happen. And this was the year, I didn't know it at that point, but this is when things were going to start falling apart on me. And a lot of it just had to do with the year of 2021. COVID and just the inflation that started to happen, and not just inflation that we're all experiencing, but the inflation with wages and just the level of labor that I could get. And it really started to make a difference. I saw it coming. I was feeling it because literally, you guys, I started my season in 2021, and it actually was an excellent season for us. I mean, we did the best we'd ever done in the grocery stores because a lot of people weren't working throughout the world and flowers were not coming in from California and other things like that. So me being a local source for the grocery stores really was panning off. We were really busy and selling absolutely every stem we were growing. Now, let's just say in a couple of years, I definitely, 2021 fooled me. Okay, let's just go there. It fooled me because they couldn't get flowers, and so they were buying my flowers like crazy, and I vamped up to making more deliveries for the following year. But once the flowers came back in from California and stuff, then it wasn't as good, but I will say we still sold a lot of flowers because people loved our flowers. So there was that hidden thing that maybe I didn't see into the future, like, hey, Paula, maybe you should be a little bit concerned when they can get flowers again, because, and I'll talk about this later, the grocery system flowers is massive and it is controlled. But that's for another time. We're talking about my journey here today. So we're just going to pipe back from the beginning of 2021. I had my employees. We were all paying wages that I kind of always paid. I could get kids from the school for minimum wage. I could hire people $10 to $12. And literally, and I'm not kidding, we had this conversation out loud in the field. I had a gal who's worked for me a long time, and she came back just to learn some more administrative tasks on the farm. And I housed her and things like this. And from the time that she started and made $12 and everybody was happy to the end of that season, she would be going back to school, and she was like, I can't accept a job for less than $20 an hour. So that for me as a flower farm, wow, I just saw that and I'm like, oh my goodness. And here I am in a wholesale world selling flowers. So that was one indication. I really started to see that labor and what I pay for labor is really, really going to change. And this was also the time that I was just going to start vamping up. I was happy. Everything's going to be good. And I was going to start vamping up to being a farmer florist. So I felt like, nope, I'm going to step out of the wholesale market and start doing more retail flowers. But 2022, the next year, this transition to do this was seriously tough. So I came back to the season in spring, and wow, that summer I had 22 part-time employees. I did not have a single full-time employee. And so that's the first time that had happened. And because I was growing for wholesale and grocery and vamped up to that many, I needed a serious team to get the work done. But the workers I could get in the prices that I could afford, wow, they just would not pull their weight. I mean, I am a 52-year-old woman, and I could outwork, and they were younger people, and I could outwork them. I even broke my foot during the season. And so I was crawling along to get the harvest done, and I could outwork them. So it just really, really got tough to have the increased wages and the massively less productivity going on. And so I saw this kind of coming, and I stepped out and talked to another nursery grower here because I was like, man, I kind of had a hard time getting some help this year, and it's not working out so good. What do you see happening? And he basically was like, Paula, if I did not have migrant agricultural workers coming in, I wouldn't be in business. And I was like, I still thought, no, it couldn't be that bad. I mean, I'm seeing it, but I'm not believing it. And so we pushed through 2022. And I thought, no, I'm going to transition. I'm going to get my flowers more at a retail price so that I can grow less, make more for my flowers, not have as many employees. But this was going to take me putting my eyes on those systems, because let me tell you, when you're selling flowers in the wholesale world, I love it because you can just grow. And that's what I love to do. I love to grow. And it doesn't take a lot of maintenance with one-to-one sales at a retail level. And boy, I remember now that I stepped into this and what it was taking to get the systems up and running, to take orders and deal with clients and visit with brides and all of that. Because in the beginning, I was like, I'm out of here. This is way too much work. I just want to grow and sell flowers and be in the massiveness of my passion, So that took me a lot of time. And so I had to come out of the field. Okay. And that is really when we started to have problems, because in my business, I was always right there. I was an operator. I was the manager. I was pointing my fingers and keeping everybody on task. And so when I really didn't have, I had people in the past that could handle that and direct people, but that was not the crew this year. And so I worked so hard, you guys. I've never worked so hard in my life. I got up probably 4 a.m, tried to get administrative stuff done, hit the field, and then I'm trying to build this farmer florist idea, and it's starting to show signs of going. I think I can make this work, but it takes a lot of me setting up the systems. And boy, I worked so hard because I recognized the crew. It's like, unless I was right there keeping everyone on task, the work just wouldn't get done in time. And we had grocery store bouquets and obligations to fulfill. But I made it through that season. We met our obligations. And I just remembered clearly when I made that payroll and I had 22 checks written. And you guys, really, I only needed 6 employees. I really felt like I only needed 6 employees to get the work done. And I was like, oh boy, I am going to transition. So that winter, I did not shut down the farmer florist. I actually practiced being open all year long, setting up systems in the studio. I was kind of slow, so I would have time to do that. And I was ordering in flowers to fill orders. And yeah, we were making sales. So the next season we came in, I was able to do Valentine's Day. I was able to do Mother's Day, and I was able to order in roses and specialty type flowers for that next season if I got brides and stuff with a certain color palette. So that was kind of fun to experiment and learn with. And boy, did I learn a lot. But the big lesson here is that there is a really big difference pushing flowers at a wholesale world and then going to selling flowers at a retail level that involves a lot of customer service and getting those systems up. And I loved it. I love providing those systems, thinking about those systems and all of that jazz. But the dynamics are very, very different. And having retail sales, man, you want to have systems up to kind of capture orders, deal with clients, and answer a lot of questions, especially since you're growing your flowers too. You really have to segment your days and make sure you are doing tasks in certain time blocks, because you can't just be answering the phone all day long. So if you can get some software involved, a website up and running that's capturing orders, that is hugely helpful. But that year 2022 just definitely took me out. Not fully. Things are really going to get a lot worse. Trust me. It takes a lot to take me down. But 2023, oh my goodness, it definitely takes me down. So 2022, we were also from 2021 double booked on weddings. I helped my daughter do weddings, and she was double booked. And I was like, well, I can't abandon her. I'm going to help her. Plus, I had built up my side and I had weddings to do. So it was a ton of work to work the farm, to get my brides taken care of. And I did have a gal that I'd been training to be a florist. And then I would pop on the weekends and go help my daughter. So I was working 7 days a week to fulfill all of the obligations and keep everybody happy. And then 2023 came, and that just completely knocked me back. It is absolutely the year where I was like, oh, Paula, you're losing it. You're burned out and all of that. And I guess everybody goes there, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I don't want you to go there. I'm like, you know what? Let's set you up right the first time. Let's pick your adventure of where you want to sell flowers and just keep it really realistic and grow organically and in a way that is solid, that times are different. They're not like they were. And so I think that you just need to be a little bit smarter moving into things. But anyways, 2023 hit, you guys. And what is the worst possible thing that could possibly ever happen on your farm? Like ever. It's like a serious series of unfortunate events. And it was just the lightning I needed. I needed to transition. I needed to be firm about it. But here I was going into 2023 with all this optimistic thinking. So I'm not going to do the grocery store anymore, but I'm going to keep a couple of them and all of that jazz. And so I walked into the season, and for the first time ever, 2023, I could not hire a crew. I can always hire a crew in the spring to come in and help me quick, work a week and get the farm picked up, get the raspberries all cleaned out. And I did not hire a single extra person. I couldn't find a crew. So that was a good indication too. I'd already made the decision to kind of scale down, but boy, that took me to a whole new level. And then the first time that this has ever happened to me, a deer got into my fence and ate almost all of my tulips. That really broke my heart because when you buy tulips, you're buying thousands of dollars worth of tulips, especially when you're growing bigger. And so they were gone. So I actually had to call the grocery stores that I was going to sell to and just let them know that, hey, I will not be there for Mother's Day. And you guys, I'd been trying to get into the grocery store for forever and be there for Mother's Day and just really cash in on that potential. So the deer had eaten my tulips. And that was just a major devastation to me. I've never had that happen before. And oh my goodness, made me grumpy. And then here we go with the worst. That's not the worst thing that can possibly happen. The worst thing that everybody is always afraid of is that some chemical would get mixed wrong and your flowers would get sprayed. So here I had the hoop houses completely planted up. Those would be my early sales. And I noticed that they were just not thriving. I'm like, what is going on here? And sure enough, and we do spray. And my daughter was getting married that weekend and I was just watching my hoop houses die. And I'm like, okay, you're losing it, Paula. Something's wrong here. You're not keeping up. And I potted up some plants to go around the house for my daughter's wedding. And one day I just grabbed the fertilizer spray that was in the hoop house and thought, I'm going to use this up. And I went around and sprayed my flowers in those pots. And the very next day, they were all dead. Or not dead, but not thriving, dying. And they did fully die. Exactly what I had been seeing in my hoop house, just such a drastic. So that had been somehow mixed wrong. And literally, you guys, it took out 2 hoop houses. So I was done. That decision was made. I did not have flowers for the grocery store at all. We were going to limp along with the woodies. We were going to limp along with the peonies. I just had no Godetia, no lovely stock, no all the little lovely things that I do have. But because I'm really diversified, I was still able to stock my farm stand and, peonies were coming in with the peony field, the woodies, all that jazz. So that was good. And because I was ordering in flowers, I was able to fulfill obligations for weddings and things like that. So I wasn't completely out of business, but in a normal world, you would have been, if you didn't have a woodies field, if you didn't have your peonies planted, if you didn't have flowers, the ability to order in flowers to fill orders in case something happened, you would have been in a world of hurt. And so I walked away from the grocery store and that thoroughly helped me make that decision. It really did. I was going there anyways. So I went there. And then I just had the whole season I knew I wanted to come here and talk. I knew that I felt like, I feel like people are going to need help growing flowers. We need to take years off their learning. And I thought I can really help them. So I really started to play around the idea of, I want to kind of help and talk out loud about teaching people how to grow flowers. So that's why I'm here. I ended up here and this wasn't easy because in 2023, I had a couple part-time girls working with me. I let everybody else go and they kind of were me out in the field, me in the studio while I tried to learn all of the tech and all of the things to kind of build some courses, learn about social media, and do all those things because I've spent 16 years growing and loving the growing and kind of avoiding too much social media and all of that because I was selling wholesale. So I really didn't need it per se. I just wasn't good at it. I had a lot to learn and I was really struggling too. You guys, I came through a bad season of darkness in my life. I lost my mom in COVID and I really wanted to save her life. We had to even break her out of the hospital so that she could die in dignity home with us. I had a daughter during this time diagnosed with a brain tumor, and we took her to the Mayo Clinic, just super hopeful that there would be a solution for this, but it is inoperable. but it's not acting up. So we're super grateful for that. And, I broke my foot during that time, and then just a lot of darkness, things that were kind of knocking me down, and I still had to stay up. And I think that's the point. That's the point. It's like we need to build businesses and things that if something doesn't go right, that we have systems in place so that the business can kind of take care of itself and you can deal with something that might need to happen, especially if you're a mom and you have kids and things happen, life happens. So I was like, I need to help people, but I had a tough year in 2023, and I saw other people online having a hard time too, and I also lost a hoop house in the winter, and that was kind of a bummer. Hoop houses are not cheap anymore. So I just had a string of things happen, and I was like, what's going on? Paula, you need to simplify. And you guys, I wanted to simplify. Looking back at the farmers markets and stuff like that, I stayed there too long. I wish I would have left sooner. The farmers market is so fantastic for getting you going, but I have a lot of children, and I do regret not being at the beach more with them and just building this flower farm to the level that it went. I think that was a mistake. I think I'm going to say that out loud. As much as I loved it, and I know I'm gifted with this passion for it, I just took it too far, I guess because I could. And so I'm reshaping that. I so much want to simplify. And this has been so hard for me to make this pivot. Like it really took this level of trouble to happen for me to wake up and realize that, Polly, this is too much. This is too much to be doing this. Simplify. And I'm so excited to simplify and get back to playing with flowers and maybe building something back the way it should have been built in the beginning. And that's the journey I'm going on forward. And I had this little miracle. It really, truly is a miracle because I was taking a course on how to learn how to do courses so that I could just be good at this. Like I've participated in so many courses and things like that were just total crap. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I cannot do that to somebody because I know that all of this is expensive and it takes time. And you need solid help from the beginning because you guys, I traveled around to go learn how to be a flower farmer. I hit conferences across America, and some of those conferences, by the time I paid my travel and all of that, I had $5,000 into them. So I have a lot to share and know. And so I was taking a course, blah, blah, blah. And here they were really taxing you with what's your mission? What do you want? I'm like, oh my goodness, this is big. I just want to make money and have this beautiful farm and all of this, trying to come up with my mission. But I did look up at a piece of paper and it said, simplify. And I was like, you know what? I just want to simplify. What if I just have the farm stand? Let me just do the farm stand and perfect that and make that amazing and grow for that. And right there, and I'm not kidding. Nobody's going to believe me about this, but right then I had a knock on my door. I'm like in this course, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's probably some Jehovah's Witnesses or something at my door. And I answered the door, I muted my course. And I answered the door, and here there was these two ladies there, and they're like, hi, well, do you remember when I asked you if I could paint your farm stand? And I'm like, well, no, but I'm sure I said yes because I just would. And she goes, well, I did paint it, and I just wanted to bring this to you. This is the painting. It's a calendar, and your picture, the picture I painted of your farm stand, got the front cover. And you guys, I started to cry. I literally started to cry, and nobody's going to believe me, but literally I'm in this course. I'm being taxed with this question about what's your mission? You need to focus. And I look at that sign, somebody knocks on my door, and I had that thought about, okay, just maybe people would follow you if you were just talking about your farm stand and showing how you do that. And then they knocked at the door and passed me this. And she drove from Washington with this message for me. So I'm Catholic, you guys. Like, I'm so taking that as a sign. I am like, thank you, Lord, for answering my prayers. Plus that morning, I had just finished a novena because I was troubled. My heart was like, what am I going to do? These are tough decisions to make. I don't want to give up my dream, but something has to change. And I'd finished a novena to the Blessed Virgin undoer of knots, because I had a lot of knots in my life, not all that I've even shared here, you guys. And that happened, and that's my miracle. So I love that. I'm counting it. And so, yeah, we're going to really focus on that farm stand this year as I walk this new path of scaling down and perfecting and building systems and making this all work and be manageable. And I want you to be on this journey with me. I feel like when you ask a question or I think a thought, I have a lot to say on it. And I'm not always right. You go, I reserve the right to be wrong. I reserve the right to step into a greater level of truth. I reserve the right to change my mind. That's the journey. I love that. And I would love if you came along with me and we fine-tuned this together and we all built little things our own way, the way we wanted to, and built little businesses, flower businesses that we love, whether it's super small and you are just doing it to give gifts to people in your life, or you're just doing a farm stand, or you just want to do funerals, or, oh my goodness, there's so many choices. I love it. I just love it. Yeah. Get in control of what you want and build something you love and bring your flowers to the world so that they can bring joy to the people around us. Okay. God bless. We will see you next week in the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like, love, subscribe, all the things. Pass this along to people you know. Thanks so much.